Oh yeah, it's Monday. You know what that means? It means it's countdown day here on the channel. Last week we looked at the top 10 blasters in all of Transformers. This time around, it's going to be the top 10 melee accessories in all of Transformers. As voted on by fans, that's going to be our topic this time around in the latest GotBot Countdown. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe while you're at it, light 'em up, baby. And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is down in the description, by the way. Also down in the description. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member any day of the week, baby. Any day of the week. And of course, this is the top 10 melee accessories as voted on by fans. And I say accessories because it could be swords, it could be hammers, it could be sticks, it could be clubs, it could be batons, it could be brass knucks. Like anything that would be used for like hand-to-hand melee sort of combat is something that we would include here. Nunchucks, right? There's another example. And of course voted on by fans all across social media. We only have one honorable mention this time, and that one honorable mention is Star Saber Sword. Yeah, and I would say that that's on a lot of people's minds right now because we have the impending release of the HasLab Star Saber up and coming, or Victory Saber. So yeah, okay, Star Saber Sword, it almost eked on the countdown. It didn't quite make it. So who did? You know what we're going to do? We're going to kick things off with number 10 first. And number 10 kind of makes sense because it takes us all the way back to the original 13 and the first sort of melee thing that was used as a tool to make other things. I'm talking about the Forge of Solus Prime. Yeah, the Forge is basically a big hammer that can make other things, including other weapons. Requiem Blaster, anybody? Just saying. So yeah, the Forge. I mean, I was hoping that this was going to make it, but I didn't know if it would make it. I didn't know if it would be predominant enough. It is like the first of the melee weapons. If not the first, it's certainly one of the first. And it deserves a place of honor. And the number 10 spot seems like a good place for it to go. Enough fans felt the same way and felt that the Forge of Solus Prime deserved to be on the top 10 melee accessories that it was indeed able to take the number 10 slot. And funny enough, as we go to number 9 now, we move from the original 13 to one of the more recently created characters, like someone who doesn't have a huge history but has amassed a big history in a short amount of time. I'm talking about Windblade and her sword. Now there's a few Windblades out and a few swords. I have the Generations one here. I'm pretty sure that this like Energon-y type of sword is probably what fans mean. I mean, you got the Titans Return one that comes with like 2 swords. And then there's like the, you know, the Cyberverse one, and there's the RID one. But I'm pretty sure that when people say Windblade sword, they mean this beautiful Energon translucent-y type of blade. Yeah, she's become a fan favorite rather quickly. Some people are sick of her. I'm not. I like Windblade. And she always sort of defers to a sword. And it's a cool sword at that. I get it. Enough fans get it that she took the number 9 slot. Number 8 may be the most ominous of all melee offerings with the Dark Star Saber. This is a version of a sword that came with Toy World's Hegemon. I assume it's supposed to homage the Dark Star Saber. I know it doesn't quite look like the Dark Star Saber, but you know, it has that purpley dark Energon look. It's a sword. It'll just go with it. Just go with it. The Star Saber, I mean, the thing can snuff out stars and planets, right? The Dark Star Saber, very destructive. I would venture to say that the Dark Star Saber is to melee combat what the Requiem Blaster is to, well, blaster combat. So this is to short range combat as the Requiem Blaster is to long range combat. It is to be respected. It is to be feared, and enough fans revere it that it took the number 8 slot. Number 7 takes us to Beast Wars and Dinobot Sword. Now, I still have his sword in the spinning shield thing, because the spinning shield thing got a couple of votes. So I just thought I'd give it like a nod here, right? But really it is the spinning sword of Dinobot. I don't know how that sword is effective because it doesn't really look sharp per se. But you know what? Dinobot is one heck of a warrior and combatant, as brave as they come, and if he opts to use it, then it must have some ferocious force behind it. Enough fans certainly felt that way that this guy took, along with his sword, the number 7 slot. Coming in at number 6, we have Bulkhead's club mace hand things. I know, this is, you're gonna look at this and you're saying, hey, that's the Last Night Hound. I use the Last Night Hound as my Bulkhead. No, I don't have the Legacy Bulkhead. I know he comes with the club hands. That would have been an easy thing to use. It's not released in my country, and honestly, I haven't been that impressed with what I've seen. I don't know. If he ever comes my way, maybe I'll eat my own hat, so to speak, you know, and eat my words. It's just, from what I've seen, I've been like, I don't know, man. I've heard good things, but I don't think he's the one for me. Like I said, this guy's been my stand, and it's too bad he doesn't have those club hands, because I know exactly what people are talking about, and they are cool. I mean, basically, his entire fist becomes a mace, and he has one wallop of a punch behind his fist. Yeah, I think it's a cool one. It's definitely a different one, and it is the closest of close contact combat. And enough fans know those hand maces and see them as formidable that it was able to take the number 6 slot. And welcome to the most coveted of locations. You know where we are. We are at the halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have Grimlock's sword. Now, yes, this is the Studio Series 86 Grimlock, and you might look at the sword and say, that's not the sword that the G1 Grimlock would use. You're right. The G1 Grimlock sword certainly got votes. The majority of the votes for Grimlock's sword, however, were the Fall of Cybertron version of the sword, which is the one that I use because I love the thing. I'm not going to lie. Any votes that came in for a Grimlock sword, I lumped together under a Grimlock sword. So it's an amalgamation of like a few versions of Grimlock sword. A nod to the Age of Extinction Grimlock's club. That got 1 vote, and I did not include it, but that club thing, yeah, I get it. It's not a sword, but it's certainly melee. Yeah, the Fall of Cybertron sword, there's something about it that just looks cool. It's not just your run-of-the-mill sword. Like, this feels special. This feels like a special sword, and it feels like it's going to mess things up. I agree with the fans. One of the best melee accessories in all of Transformers, Grimlock sword. And of Grimlock sword, the Fall of Cybertron War for Cybertron video game version is probably the coolest. And it took the number 5 slot. Not gonna lie, I thought that number 4 was going to be higher, because it's one of the most well-known melee accessories. And I'm sure a lot of people have been watching this list and waiting for the appearance of this. It is Megatron's mace, or flail. Some people will say, it's not a mace doesn't have a chain, it's a flail. I don't care. I don't care. We all know what it is. It's his Energon thing, right? That he uses that one time in that first episode when he beats down Optimus and he takes off flying through the air and he spins it around and we never see it again. But man, was it cool. Honestly, I preferred the mace over, or the flail, whatever you want to call it, over Optimus's axe. Why? Because I found it more versatile. He could throw this, fling it, and I mean, it got a spiked ball on the end. Optimus was going to have to get real close with that Energon axe of his. Yeah, one of the best known melee accessories in all of Transformers, and it took, based on fan votes, the number 4 slot. Here we are at the top 3, and coming in at number 3 is the Magnus Hammer. Now I know this is Transformers Prime Ultra Magnus, and I know that this hammer by rights is the Forge with all of its like power used up, so he just uses it as his hammer. The votes that came in, to be fair, even though I'm holding this one because it's just the easiest one to get in my hand, to be fair, the votes that came in really were in reference to A, animated Ultra Magnus, and B, the Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus, and that Magnus Hammer. It's just a nice little coincidence that this guy happened to have a hammer too. The Magnus Hammer, I mean, it is a heck of a thing. It is, I've always looked at Magnus's hammer. It's so weird. He never had it in G1, and yet the Combiner Wars one came with it, and like Animated had it, and like it's become its own piece of Transformers urban legend, so to speak, and lore, and what's exactly is the power behind it, and how much power does it have. I almost feel like it is like the Transformers equivalent, kinda, sorta, to like Thor's hammer. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's always meant for Magnus's hand. It's always meant to be wielded by Magnus. It's always meant to exhibit its power to its peak, only in the hands of Ultra Magnus. And maybe I'm wrong about that lore. I don't really care if I'm wrong about that lore. For me, it's what helps me to see this as a formidable accessory, a formidable force. Without it, without Magnus, just feels like a hammer, you know? Just feels like a hammer. It's not just a hammer though, it's the Magnus Hammer. And fans felt that it deserved to be on this list, and it took the number 3 slot. I think number 2 is going to come as a surprise, because I think a lot of people automatically assume that this is going to be number 1, but number 2 is Optimus's Energon axe. Now, again, to be fair, there are some that got lumped together here. A lot of people that voted for the axe used by, which wasn't really an Energon axe per se, but the axe used by animated Optimus, which he used somewhat frequently. A lot of people voted for the G1 Optimus axe. How could you not? Side note, there were also some votes for the hooks that movie Optimus used and the blades that movie Optimus used. I did not lump them in here, but I thought that they were worth mentioning because in the films, you know, those blades take the place of this axe. Those hooks take the place of this axe. So I understand it. I totally understand it. Whatever version of this axe you kind of want to reference, yeah, you know what? Optimus Prime's melee accessory. That's number 2. It just so happens that most people see that as the axe. I tend to agree. Seems like a fitting place, but of course that begs the question, if Optimus's axe is number 2, then what possibly could be number 1? Okay, so here we are at the top spot, and bear with me a moment as I explain it, because number 1 is the Star Saber. Now I get it. Some people are going to say, that's the Primus sword that comes with Kingdom Rodimus Prime. Yes, it is, but I paired it with Prima, and I use it as the Star Saber. And before you say, that's Protoform Optimus Prime. Yes, it is, but it's been retconned to be Prima. So this is actually a version of Prima, and this is actually a version of the Star Saber. I think we all know that I'm making some allowances and stretching a little bit here. The Star Saber, I mean, its power is immense. Some voted for the Transformers Prime aligned continuity version of the Star Saber, which this is meant to homage, from like the Covenant of Primus. Some people voted for the Unicron trilogy, the Armada team that comes together to make the Star Saber. Either one, either way you cut it, when you're talking about that blade, it is a thing of lore, it is a thing of mysticism, and its power is immense. The Star Saber might be the single most powerful artifact in all of Transformers, and enough fans felt that way that it took the number 1 slot. And there you go, man. We've gone from 10 down to 1 once again. And yeah, the Star Saber seems right at the top. I'm glad the Forge was on here. I'm glad that Optimus's Energon axe, that the Mace or the Flail was on here. I think the list worked out pretty well. Now, some other votes that I think are great votes. Springer Sword, especially the Thrilling 30 Springer. What about things like the Skyboom Shield and Slitherfang and Sound Barrier? They all got votes. What about, let's see, what else do we have here? Rumble and Frenzy's Pile Drivers. That's a great one, a very interesting one too. Let's see. Oh, the Poke. Lugnut's Poke. There's a great one. TLK Megatron's sword axe thing is a good one. Brawn. Just Brawn. That's all, just Brawn. Just Brawn being Brawn. Let's see. Movie Sentinel Prime's Big Blade. Cybertron Metroplex's Spark Drinker. Laser Prime Sword. Terradive Spear. I thought that was a cool one. The Tyrant Spear from Black Zarek. That was a cool one. And the list goes on and on and on. Let's end with Drift Swords. Why not? Or let's end with Animated Prowl's Nunchucks. Just for something different. There you go. 10 down to 1 and a whole ton left over. It was a fun round of voting. Let me know if your favorites made the list or not. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit. Either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way right here with me inside the videos.